Please note the content of this podcast and this particular series is provided for informational purposes only and does not constitute as medical advice. Please consult a licensed healthcare professional for guidance. Now on to the podcast. Hello there and welcome back to Witchy Ways for Modern Days, the podcast where today modern magic meets soul-centered living. I'm your host, Brittany, and today's episode is one I have been so excited to share with you. This is probably I believe this is the topic that started the initial idea for the podcast many moons ago at this point, shadow work. It has been a long time coming. I believe as of right this moment, this is going to be an 8-part podcast series. I have it sectioned out where I think 8 is going to be enough. If that changes, it changes. But as it stands right now, that's where we're at. I do recommend that you listen to them in full and you listen to them in the order that they are released. It is in that order for a reason. It's okay if you skip around, that's fine. But to give you the most eased way into the work that we're going to be doing, go ahead and please try to follow the steps in the order that I'm giving them to you. So today we are diving into the deep, deep waters of shadow work. What it is, where it comes from, why it matters, and how it could be the key to your next level of spiritual growth, healing, personal power, and development. So if you've been feeling stuck in certain patterns or struggling with emotional triggers, repeating toxic dynamics, or even just sensing that there is something beneath the surface of you that is asking for your attention, begging for your attention, this is the series you want to pay attention to. So let's go ahead. Let's light a candle, get comfortable, and we'll take this journey one step at a time together. So what is the shadow? Let's begin with the very basics. When we talk about the shadow, we're not talking about something that's spooky, or that is sinister, or that is ghostly, or even particularly magical. In fact, the shadow is simply all of the parts of ourselves that we have rejected or denied or suppressed for some reason. When we do that to these parts, they don't go away. They simply go underground. So the term shadow, it comes from the work of the psychiatrist Carl Jung. So he believed that each of us has what he called a personal unconscious, aka a part of our psyche, a part of our inner self, our soul, what have you, that holds memory. The part that holds feeling, the parts of our personality that we have disowned, things that we have pushed to the subconscious. Here's one example. Let's say you grew up in a home where anger wasn't safe for you to express. You may have learned to swallow that anger or just pretend it didn't exist. When you do that, that anger doesn't disappear. It becomes part of your shadow. So over time, over years, even over a lifetime, it may leak out as passive aggression. It could leak out as sarcasm, or even like physical symptoms, migraines, anxiety, constant tension in the neck and shoulders. These things that we bury hold weight even when we have suppressed them to the point where we think they don't matter anymore. So think of your shadow as a treasure chest that has been buried. It is filled with pain, yes, it will be filled with an enormous amount of pain. But with that pain, I want you to remember that it will also come with power. There is power in that pain. So, why even do shadow work? This is such an important question. So, why would you even bother with this uncomfortable, messy, hard work? The truth is, what we suppress doesn't stay buried. It doesn't stay as buried treasure. It starts to come above ground. It starts to go sideways. The shadow can show up, like I said, in migraines, anxiety. It can show up also in emotional reactivity, emotional triggers that you don't know where that trigger is coming from, what that trigger means. Jealousy, envy, comparison, things not being good enough for you, life not being good enough. It could kind of translate as self-sabotage, procrastinating, struggle, keeping relationships, establishing relationships and keeping them, self-criticism, perfection, any harsh doses of self-care. Care is a very strong term there. Strong doses of self-loathing. There you go. Self-loathing that you push towards yourself, that you give towards yourself. And it could also come out as chronic fear of rejection, chronic fear of failure, of not being good enough. When we ignore the shadow, it starts to run the show. But when we're going to bring it to light, when we bring those buried parts back up to the surface, we start to acknowledge them, we start to give them their power back, we are taking back all that was taken from us in the first place. So doing shadow work, it really allows us to reclaim those disowned parts of ourselves. It helps us to learn how to respond to things rather than immediately reacting. It will help you to forgive yourself. It will help you to forgive other people and help you to just feel more whole, more of an authentic person, and more free. It will help yourself feel more free. This is a metaphor that I really love. Imagine your psyche as a house. Shadow work is simply turning on the lights in the rooms that you've kept locked. Yes, it can be uncomfortable. You are not quite sure what you're going to see when those lights turn on from these doors that you've kept locked for years and years and years. But wouldn't you rather know what is in those rooms rather than be haunted by the idea of what's in those rooms? Just a thought. Now, signs that you're being called to shadow work. Shadow work often calls us before we consciously choose to actually do it, before we actually sometimes even come across the term shadow work. It will call to us, we'll be like, what is this? It can come through, the signs can come through as restlessness. Even though you feel like your life is fine, everything's going fine, those calls could be coming through as constant triggers. Other people are bothering you a lot more than they have in the past, and you're just constantly triggered. You could start feeling like you're living a double life, one that is world-facing and then one that is personal and secret. You could start to be pulled to revisit old wounds, memories, dreaming of old memories, things from days past that you may not have necessarily even thought about in forever. Or it could just manifest simply like as a desire to go deeper into your spiritual practice, into who you are as a spiritual being. So all of these are invitations to begin. So shadow work isn't about fixing yourself. It's not about fixing, okay? I don't want us to use the term fixing because you're not broken. This is about finding yourself fully. We're not fixing, we're finding, and it is an important distinction, and I want you to be aware of it because we are not coming from a broken state. We are coming from a state of self that only has the potential to be stronger. So how to begin shadow work? As gently as possible. That's my goal, to ease you in as gently as I possibly can. We're not going to be doing a deep dive in this episode. You don't need to be diving into the deep end of the pool on day one. That is going to be harmful ultimately. Shadow work needs to be intentional. It needs to be paced. And you have to be grounded in safety, in comfort as you do so. This is how we're going to start. I want you to create a safe, sacred space. All right? So what that means is you could set up a place. Maybe you already have one. Maybe it's a place that you meditate. Maybe it's simply your bed. I want you to set a place where you can feel ultimately safe and comfortable. It could be anywhere. If you want to do this outside, I think that's fantastic. Whatever works for you. This work, it doesn't just deserve reverence, it demands reverence. And so we have to treat the space that we even do this in as sacred space. I want you to have something for protection. All right. So preferably I would have you light a candle for protection as you start this. Black candles would be my number one recommendation. If you have a candle that already has the intention of some form of protection or some form of shadow work candle, that's fine. It could be just a plain candle that you have shadow work oil or product and then you anoint and burn, that's fine. If you have crystals in your home, obsidian would be a good one to grab. Labradorite would be a good one to grab. That one is a bit less for protection and more for the metaphysical change that's going to be happening, but is still relevant. You could get some tourmaline together, hematite, whatever protection stones you have on hand. You don't need a handful, but you do need like one or two, preferably. If you work with any guides, I would like you to call in at least one guide, or at least one ancestor, or one deity, whatever makes more sense to you, right? So, for example, one person could be calling in Athena for help, or Athena just to sit with her as she starts this process to be a protector, to be an energetic support system. So you just call them in, you just ask for guidance, you ask them for protection while you do this work, while you begin this very detailed work. 99 out of 100 times, the answer will be yes. And then I want you to ground yourself. I want you to ground yourself either by my most favorite version of grounding yourself, which is like the easiest visualization in my opinion, which is the string of yarn behind the belly button, and then imagining that string of yarn slowly falling down the base of your spine into the ground, into the earth, all the way till it hits the core of the earth, so that you are literally grounded to earth element energy. You could simply, if you're outside, place your hands, place your feet on the ground flat. Imagine you're growing roots out of your feet, out of your hands, back into the earth. We want the grounding state to be as strong as possible. If you initially go into shadow work from a chaotic or air element state, it's not going to be harmful, but the work is not going to be as beneficial as it could be for you. So let's try to avoid that. Now I want you to think about your childhood. What were you not allowed to express? Think on it for a moment and think, what parts of yourself did you have to learn to hide in order to be loved, or hide in order to feel accepted? That is a very heavy question to pose to somebody. So I apologize if that made your stomach drop, because that is a tough one to begin with, but this is not easy work. It's not. So you need to be prepared sometimes for the tough questions and the tough thought exercises. So let's think, what parts of you did you have to hide in order to be loved, be accepted, be among people who cared about you, and who didn't critique parts of the personality that you then dubbed to be too much and you hid? So journaling is going to be extremely important. I do recommend that you have at least one journal. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but I do recommend that you have a journal. Journaling with intention is one of the most powerful tools in shadow work. On that question, what parts of you did you learn to hide to be loved, be accepted? Go ahead and take some initial notes down, just the first gut instinct that you have. This could be a scribble of words. This could be one or two words. It could be nothing. And don't panic if it's nothing. You're going to get there. But do your initial gut instinct reaction to me asking you that question and write it down. Then I want you to try 4 additional questions. And this might take a while, so you might have to put this podcast on pause for a bit, answer these, then come back and finish. That's going to be up to you, but I do recommend that you at least take a considerable amount of time with each question and really, really think about it, because it's important to get this right. The second question that I want you to think about is, what triggers you the most in other people? The remainder of this podcast can be purchased at our Patreon, Witchy Ways for Modern Days.